We're nearly there. All that remains is the blade guides. Now, there's a bit of a story behind the blade guides. So let's zoom in and I'll show you what I've got. So this is the original guide that came with the bandsaw. I think we've had a real close look at this in previous video. So my first thought was, well, I'll just have to make a duplicate for the bottom guide. That was in the position of the top rear blade guide, but they're not very good as blade guides. It's a pretty crappy design, and I was wondering, I'm in an iron about it and wondering whether there was any way I could improve it. Anyway, while I was doing this, my friend My Boy got in touch with me after the first video I posted and said, "Oh, I've got a Burgess Bandsaw, but it's got different blade guides to yours." He said they seem to be a little bit better, a bit more like modern blade guides for bandsaws, and he very kindly offered to send them to me. He said, "I'll lend them to you. I don't use the bandsaw very much. If you want to copy them for yours, feel free." So he did. He sent me the blade guides. As you can see, these are considerably different. This is the top one, which actually does have a proper ball race bearing for the back support. Then it has these two little Tufnell pads which you can adjust the gap, which provide a sideways support for the blade. The bottom one, lower one, has the two Tufnell pads, just like the top one, but it has a simple roller as the rear support for the blade. And I thought, yeah, excellent. These are way better than the original ones that I had on mine. And after talking to My Boy, it turned out that his bandsaw is a BK2. Mine is the BBS-20. The basic difference is that the BK2 was a dual speed bandsaw, but other than that, it's pretty much identical to the one I've got. Certainly, the castings look the same. Just very, very similar. The only difference is that it has these different blade guides and it has a high-speed pulley wheel, which My Boy also very kindly sent me. Now, as you can see, this is very similar to the original one that I've got on mine, except that it has the drive pulley here. Now on mine, the drive pulley goes around the outside of this pulley. So obviously, to set this one up, you need a smaller drive belt, and you also need a deeper pulley on the motor. And I'm certainly going to look into seeing whether we can do that on my saw, but that's a subject for a later video. So anyway, these are quite complicated. The blocks that these aluminium cast blocks that the blade guide is mounted are quite complex. And I was thinking, well, that's not a problem. I could probably make something, simplify that, but still do the same job. So that was my line of thinking. And then I was hunting around on YouTube for videos on the Burgess Bandsaw, and amazingly, there was one put out by somebody who I actually subscribed to. I think he put the video out in early June, and I completely missed it. I don't know how I managed to do that. And this guy will be familiar to anyone who is interested in model steam engines. His name is Keith Appleton, and he's got an amazing channel. I'll put links in the description to My Boy's channel and Keith Appleton's channel, although I'm sure most of you know both of them by now. Anyway, he's got exactly the same Burgess Bandsaw, BBS-20, and his upper blade guide wore out. So he had to replace it, and he came up with an elegantly simple solution, and it's just brilliant. So I got in touch with him. I said, look, I'm restoring one of these. Do you mind if I pinch your idea for the blade guide? And he said, no, go ahead. So big shout out to Mr. Keith Appleton, because his solution it was just so brilliantly simple. And there it is. That is my new upper blade guide. And I will take it apart and show you what's inside. Yeah, so basically all there is to it, there is a ball race bearing. That's a very small 12mm ball race bearing there, which is spaced out using some washers. But the real clever bit that Keith came up with was these two recessed washers, which go either side of the ball race, and you space them out using washers to give you the gap for the blade. So basically the blade bears up against the ball race bearing, the back of the blade bears up against the ball race bearing there, and the sides of the recessed washers simply give you the side support for the blade. And it's just brilliant, and it's so much easier than trying to make, you know, complicated aluminium multifaceted blocks to hold things and the rest of it. Now, you are somewhat limited on the diameter of these recessed washers because you've got clearance on the top guide. You've got a reasonable amount of space. On the bottom guide, I had to make the bottom one slightly smaller than this to clear the casting. I'll put that one back together and install it, and then we'll have a look at them on the actual bandsaw. Okay, so there you can see the two guides installed. The outer washers are free to move, both of them. And obviously the back of the blade is pushing up against the... It's not hard against, it's just resting. Obviously when you push bits of wood into it, it's going to push it against the ball race bearings, but that's providing just excellent support, and I think much better than the original guide. So yeah, big shout out to Keith Appleton for this, absolutely brilliant. I'll have a quick close in a bit on so you can see what the whole thing in position. There you go. And they fit in exactly the same place as the others. The reason that the lower one has to be a slightly smaller diameter is because it has to clear the side of the case here, so it can't protrude. I mean, I've got a gap of probably about 1 millimeter between the outer diameter of the recessed washer and the case, because you need to be able to move this up and down. Obviously, you need to get it as close to the underside of the table as you can, but that it comes up against the case if you're not careful. So yeah, the blade guides are done, and I've tested it, I've run it with them in there, and it all works fine. So the only thing left now is to put it all back together, put the table on, and then see if we can actually cut anything with it. The moment of truth. We're going to try a little bit of softwood to start with, make it not you know, give it too much of a challenge. Right, where's my safety glasses? There we go. Right, okay, here we go. Well, I think we can count that as a success. Very nice cut. That's a 14 tooth per inch blade, which is the general purpose, you know. As Kev from Mr. Factotum's workshop correctly says, at the standard speed, this is quite slow. So it'll be interesting to see whether it's better with the high speed pull-in. Well, let's give it a go with, this is a little bit ajar. Quite hard, so we'll see how it does that with that. Well, absolutely no problem, and a very nice cut. Very nice indeed. It works! Yay! It's been a long time coming. It took me several hours, I'm not joking here, to get the blade to track properly. It's very difficult. The pulleys are position themselves differently depending on which way around you have them, and it's getting them all to line up properly and then track the blade properly. Yeah, it's tricky stuff. Well, there it is, the old Burgess BBS-20 Mark II bandsaw in all its glory. It is now officially finished after several weeks of work off and on, and I think it turned out okay. Certainly looking a lot better than it did when I first acquired it. Yeah, I think the Hammerite silver was the right way to go. But it's been a lot of fun doing this. Well, with the proviso that getting the blade to track properly, that was not fun. But the rest of it was pretty damn good fun. So yeah, it's I think it's looking pretty good. The badge sadly stretched when I was taking it off. I should have taken more care, but it was very grubby anyway. So what I've done is I've knocked up a facsimile of the badge on CorelDRAW. It's not exactly the same. I don't know what fonts they used, but I think it's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah, it's pretty close. I use CorelDRAW to do this, but that's only because that's the program I'm most familiar with. But you could easily do this in any other, Photoshop would do it, no problem. Programs like that. But yeah, it's as close as I could get it, and it's I think it's good enough. That one's just temporary. I need to make a laminated one, or one that's protected. That's just a paper printout. But yeah, I think it does the job. Now I've done a little tot up because I wanted to see how much I'd actually spent on this. So I think it was £14.50. That was the auction price for the bandsaw. There was another £11 on top of that, so we'll call that 25 quid. The blade was £10. The belt was £10. The thumb screws were £3.30. The switch was £4. The feet were £6.40, and the bearings were £3. So that makes a grand total of £61.70. So I think that's very reasonable for a perfectly serviceable bench mounted bandsaw. £61. I think I very much doubt you could buy a new one, even a cheap crappy Chinese one, for that kind of money. And not only that, I've really enjoyed doing it. I thoroughly enjoyed doing this, and it's just been very useful. I've learnt a lot. Again, massive shout outs and thank yous to people like Myford Boy, Keith Appleton. The community is just brilliant for this sort of stuff. People are very helpful, and you benefit from other people's experience, and they've just been extremely helpful while I've been doing this. There's another chap I'd like to mention whose YouTube videos helped me immensely when I was taking this thing apart. His name is John Ward, and I'll put a link in the description to his channel and his videos. He did 3 videos on this exact bandsaw, the BBS-20 Mark II, stripped down, clean up, repaint and reassemble. Now he didn't have to make any parts for his was complete, but it was still very useful to see those videos when I came to strip this thing down. So yeah, well pleased with the result. I think it's come out really well, and it's going to be a very useful addition to the workshop. So that's about it for now. I think that covers it. That's the Burgess Powerline BBS-20 Mark II bench mounted bandsaw, all complete and now perfectly serviceable and functional. So I hope you've enjoyed these series of videos, and thanks ever so much to everyone who watched them. Cheers!